The Ancient Warning. In the crystalline chambers of the Galactic Federation's Grand Archive, Chief Archaeologist Ziraval stood motionless before a holographic projection of newly discovered ruins. Her iridescent scales shimmed under the soft ambient light as she studied the ancient markings with her four eyes, each one focused on different details of the mysterious text before her. The ruins, discovered on the outer rim of known space, contained warnings that had initially seemed like mere superstition. But as Zeraval decoded more of the text, an unsettling pattern emerged. Every civilization that had inhabited this sector of space, spanning back millions of years, had left the same message. Beware the species that walks upright, the ones who refuse to accept limitations. Preposterous, muttered council member Thexra, his gravitational field fluctuating with irritation as he floated beside her. These primitives were clearly referring to some long-extinct species. The probability of such a civilization surviving without our detection is astronomically low. Ziraval's outer membrane rippled with uncertainty. With respect, council member, these warnings appear in ruins spanning 3 galactic arms. The latest dating suggests some are merely 1,000 years old. Whatever species they're referring to, they were advanced enough to inspire fear across multiple civilizations. The Federation had ruled the known galaxy for 50,000 years. Their mastery of gravitational manipulation and quantum engineering had allowed them to achieve what many considered the peak of technological advancement. Their society was built on careful calculation and precise planning. No decision was made without consulting their vast probability engines. Your concern is noted, Chief Archaeologist, Thexra dismissed, but our detection systems monitor every form of energy emission known to science. No spacefaring civilization could hide from us. As if in answer to his certainty, the Archive's emergency protocols activated. The holographic displays flickered and changed, showing a real-time feed from the Federation's outer monitoring stations. Unknown vessels had appeared at the edge of their space, ships unlike anything in their database. The vessels were crewed by Federation standards, utilizing primitive reaction drives and metallic hulls. But there was something about their design that sent a shiver through Ziraval's cellular structure. They were built with purpose, every angle and surface designed for functionality rather than aesthetics. Impossible, Thexra whispered, his gravitational field contracting in shock. Our probability engines calculated a 99.998% chance that we were alone in this sector. The unknown ships moved with precision that defied their apparent technological level. They responded to the Federation's standard greeting protocols, but not in any known language. Instead, they transmitted in simple electromagnetic waves, a method so ancient that it took the Federation's systems several minutes to decode. The message was brief. Greetings from humanity. We come seeking knowledge and friendship, but we will defend ourselves if threatened. Humanity. The word triggered something in the Archive's ancient databases. Ziraval's appendages flew over the control surfaces, pulling up references that hadn't been accessed in millennia. There, buried in the oldest sections of their records, were fragments of data about a species that had once inhabited a small blue world in an unremarkable solar system. The records were incomplete, but they painted a picture of a species that had evolved on a death world, a planet so hostile that by Federation standards, intelligent life should never have emerged there. These humans had not only survived but had thrived, advancing from primitive tool users to space exploration in an impossibly short time. Council member, Ziraval said, her voice trembling slightly. I believe we found the species from the warnings, or rather, they found us. The Federation's response teams were already mobilizing, following protocols established millennia ago. But as Ziraval studied the approaching ships more carefully, she noticed details that the others had missed. The vessels showed signs of repair, modifications, and improvements. Evidence of a species that learned and adapted constantly. We should proceed with extreme caution, she advised. These humans, they're not like us. They don't wait for probability calculations to act. They don't seek perfection before advancing. They experiment. They take risks. Thexra's field pulsed with dismissive confidence. They are primitives with barely adequate technology. If they prove hostile, our defenses will handle them easily. But as the human ships drew closer, Zyraval couldn't shake the feeling that the Federation was about to learn why those ancient warnings had been carved in stone rather than stored in databases. Some lessons, it seemed, were too important to risk being forgotten. The first contact protocol was initiated, and the Federation prepared to welcome these humans into their carefully ordered galaxy. But in the back of Zyraval's mind, the ancient warnings echoed. Beware the species that walks upright, for they do not understand the meaning of impossible. The stage was set for a meeting that would change the galaxy forever, though not in the way anyone expected. The humans had arrived, and with them came the potential for either a new era of cooperation or the fulfillment of those ancient warnings. The question was, which path would the Federation choose? First contact gone wrong. The Federation's diplomatic vessel, Eternal Harmony, approached the human fleet with all the grandeur its makers could muster. Its crystalline structure caught and refracted starlight in complex patterns, a display meant to showcase the Federation's mastery over matter itself. Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth ship, Resilient, watched the approaching vessel through her bridge viewport, her expression unreadable. "They're certainly putting on a show," her XO, Commander Jackson, remarked dryly. "Think they're compensating for something?" Chen didn't answer immediately, her eyes fixed on the sensor readings. 20 years of deep space exploration had taught her that appearances were often deceiving. The Federation vessel's beautiful exterior masked power readings that made her uneasy. Their seemingly peaceful approach was accompanied by the subtle activation of weapons systems that her ship's AI had barely detected. "Keep our shields at minimal power," she ordered, "but have emergency protocols ready. Something doesn't feel right." The Federation's greeting party materialized aboard the Resilience diplomatic chamber, a violation of protocol that sent security teams scrambling. 3 beings appeared, a floating orb of pure energy, a crystalline humanoid, and a creature that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. "We welcome you to Federation space," the energy being announced, its thoughts translated by advanced algorithms. "I am High Counselor Thexra. We are impressed that your species has managed to achieve space travel with such primitive methods." Chen felt her jaw tighten, but maintained her diplomatic smile. "Humanity has always believed that where there's a will, there's a way. We appreciate your welcome, though we would have preferred standard docking procedures." The crystalline being, introduced as Zyraval, shifted uncomfortably. "Our scans indicate your vessel lacks proper materialization reception facilities. We merely sought to expedite our meeting by bypassing our security protocols and demonstrating your technological superiority," Commander Jackson asked, his voice carefully neutral. "Interesting diplomatic strategy." The Federation representatives exchanged what might have been glances, the multi-dimensional being flickered in what could have been agitation. "You misunderstand," Thexra said. "We simply wish to evaluate your species' readiness to join galactic civilization. Our preliminary scans suggest you require significant advancement before integration." Chen's eyes narrowed slightly. "With respect, High Counselor, humanity isn't seeking permission to exist in space. We're here to establish diplomatic relations between equals." "Equals?" The word seemed to cause Thexra physical distress. "Your species still relies on chemical propulsion. Your energy generation is barely beyond fission. You haven't even mastered basic gravitational manipulation. Yet here we are," Chen replied calmly, "having crossed the same distance you have, solving problems our own way. Different doesn't mean inferior." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Zyraval moved forward slightly. "Captain, please understand. The Federation has guided countless species to enlightenment. Our way has proven optimal through millennia of experience. We only wish to help humanity avoid the pitfalls of uncontrolled advancement." By having us abandon our own path of development. Chen asked. That's not help. It's colonization with a friendly face. Thexra's energy form pulsed with what might have been anger. You speak of things you don't understand. Our probability engines show that without proper guidance, humanity has an 83% chance of causing a major galactic disaster within the next century. Life isn't about probabilities, Chen countered. It's about possibilities. Humanity has faced extinction-level events multiple times, and each time we've survived by doing the impossible. The multidimensional being suddenly expanded, its voice a chorus of harmonics. This is precisely why the ancient warnings exist. Your species refuses to accept natural limitations. The words hung in the air as both sides realized the implications of what had been said. Chen's expression hardened. What ancient warnings? Zyraval moved forward, her crystalline form catching the light. Captain, there's something you need to know. We found references to humanity in ruins across the galaxy. Warnings about your unpredictability. Warnings that we're now seeing proven true. Thexray interjected. Your species must be contained and guided properly, for the good of all. Chen's hand moved slightly, triggering a silent alert to her crew. And if we refuse this guidance, then the Federation will be forced to take more direct action, Thexra stated. We cannot allow an uncontrolled variable to threaten galactic stability. The tension in the room could have been cut with a knife. Chen stood slowly, her voice steady. Let me be very clear, High Counselor. Humanity has never responded well to threats, no matter how diplomatically they're phrased. This is not a threat, Captain. It is simply the most probable course of action. Probability is about what's likely, Chen replied. Humanity specializes in the unlikely. You should read those ancient warnings more carefully. They're not just about our unpredictability. They're about what happens when someone tries to cage us. The diplomatic chamber's lights flickered as the Resilience AI detected energy buildups in the Federation vessel. Across human space, similar scenes were playing out as First Contact rapidly deteriorated into First Conflict. The Federation was about to learn why those ancient warnings existed, and why humanity's unpredictability was both its greatest strength and the galaxy's greatest fear. The die was cast, and the stars themselves would bear witness to what happened when an unstoppable force met a supposedly immovable object. The turning point. The Federation's probability engines had calculated a 6-month campaign would be sufficient to subjugate humanity. After 3 weeks of warfare, those same engines were smoking ruins, their predictions shattered by human ingenuity and determination. Admiral Coruscant stared at the tactical display aboard the Federation's flagship, Inevitable Victory, his crystalline form clouded with confusion. The human ships shouldn't have been able to penetrate their advanced shields. They shouldn't have been able to track their phase-shifted vessels. And they certainly shouldn't have been able to adapt their tactics so quickly. Another squadron lost in the Arcturus sector, his tactical officer reported, voice trembling. The humans, they're using our own gravity weapons against us. Impossible, Coruscant whispered. They couldn't have decoded our technology so quickly. But the evidence was undeniable. Human engineers had observed the Federation's gravity manipulation devices in action, and rather than trying to replicate the advanced technology, had found ways to disrupt it with their own crude but effective countermeasures. On the other side of the conflict, aboard the newly commissioned Earth warship, Unconventional, Dr. Maya Patel watched her latest creation at work. The ship's hull was covered in what the crew had nicknamed gravity graffiti, mathematical equations that created interference patterns in the Federation's gravitational weapons. They're so focused on perfection that they never considered imperfect solutions, she explained to Captain Chen, who had been given command of this experimental vessel. Their gravity weapons create perfectly symmetrical fields. We just need to introduce chaos into the equation, literally. The Federation's perfectly ordered battle formations were being undone by human unpredictability. Where the Federation relied on complex eye-driven tactical systems, human commanders made split-second decisions based on instinct and experience. Where Federation ships moved in precise, mathematically optimal patterns, human vessels appeared to move randomly, making them nearly impossible to target. But it wasn't just military technology that was changing the tide. Humanity's greatest weapon was its diversity of thought. The Federation had achieved unity through uniformity. Humans had achieved strength through difference. In a particularly decisive battle, a Federation commander watched in horror as a small fleet of human mining vessels turned their industrial cutting lasers into improvised weapons. "They're using mining equipment as weapons," he reported in disbelief. "This violates all combat protocols." The response from his human opponent, broadcast on all frequencies, became legendary. "Protocols are for people who can't improvise." The Federation's rigid command structure began to crack under the strain of dealing with an enemy that refused to follow the rules of warfare. Their ships were designed to fight specific types of battles in specific ways. Human vessels, by contrast, were constantly being modified, upgraded, and repurposed. In the Orient sector, a Federation patrol encountered what they thought was a disabled human freighter. They moved in to capture it, following standard procedures for disabled vessel retrieval. Too late, they realized the freighter was a trap, a hull filled with quantum-destabilized materials that, while crude by Federation standards, was devastatingly effective. The Federation's leadership struggled to understand their enemy. Humans didn't fight like a unified species should. Each fleet, each ship, each soldier seemed to have their own way of doing things. It was chaos by Federation standards, but it was chaos with purpose. Dr. Patel's breakthrough came when studying captured Federation technology. "They've achieved so much," she noted, "but they stopped innovating. They found optimal solutions and never looked beyond them." Humanity's strength is that we never stop asking, what if? The turning point of the war came not in a grand battle, but in a series of small, unconventional engagements. Human ships began using the debris fields from previous battles as cover, something the Federation considered beneath them. They modified their communication systems to piggyback on the Federation's own quantum networks, creating confusion and discord in their perfectly coordinated fleet movements. But perhaps most surprisingly, humans began showing mercy in victory. When Federation ships were disabled, human vessels would often offer assistance rather than destruction. This behavior confused the Federation military leadership. It didn't fit any of their combat algorithms. Aboard the Unconventional, Captain Chen watched as another Federation squadron fell back in disarray. "They still don't understand," she said to Dr. Patel. "We're not fighting because we want to. We're fighting because they didn't give us a choice." The Federation's belief in their own superiority had led them to underestimate not just humanity's military capabilities, but their fundamental nature. Humans didn't just solve problems. They reframed them. They didn't just adapt to challenges. They turned those challenges into opportunities. As the war entered its second month, the Federation faced an uncomfortable reality. Their probability engines had failed to account for the most important variable of all: the human spirit. The species they had dismissed as primitive was teaching them lessons about warfare, innovation, and determination that would reshape the galaxy forever. In the ruins where the ancient warnings had been found, Zeraval stood alone, rereading the texts with new understanding. The warnings weren't about humanity's destructive potential. They were about humanity's power to change everything they touched. The question was whether the Federation could adapt to this change, or if they would break in their resistance to it. Unity through understanding. Deep within neutral space, aboard a derelict station that predated both human and Federation civilization, an unlikely meeting took place. Dr. Maya Patel stood before a holographic display, her dark eyes reflecting the ancient star charts that filled the chamber. Beside her, Zeraval's crystalline form hummed with barely contained excitement. "These stellar formations," Zeraval said, her translator struggling to convey her enthusiasm, "they're unlike anything in our records." "But you recognize them immediately." "Because we've seen them before," Maya replied, pulling up comparative data from Earth's astronomical archives. These aren't just star charts, they're warnings. Each of these systems contains something that nearly destroyed their civilizations. The same patterns keep repeating across galaxies, across eons. The two scientists had arranged this clandestine meeting through back channels, against the wishes of both their governments. What had started as an attempt to understand each other's technology had led to a stunning revelation. The ancient warnings weren't about humanity at all. In another section of the station, Captain Chen and a Federation commander named Lexus Tor were making their own discoveries. The station's databanks contained records of countless civilizations that had risen and fallen, each facing the same critical challenge. Every advanced species eventually encounters them, Lexus Tor explained, his energy form pulsing with concern. The Devourers. They exist between dimensions, feeding on technological civilizations that achieve a certain level of development. The warnings weren't about humans being a threat. They were instructions on how to survive. Chen's expression hardened as she studied the ancient records. That's why the Federation's probability engines kept giving false readings about humanity. They were detecting the Devourer's influence, not our actions. The truth was more complex than either side had imagined. The Federation's rigid adherence to technological perfection had actually been protecting them, making them less visible to the Devourers. Humanity's chaotic innovation, while powerful, was like a beacon to these ancient predators. Your species' adaptability, Zyraval explained to Maya, it's not just a quirk of evolution. It's exactly what the ancients were trying to preserve. The Federation's way of perfect order and humanity's constant innovation. They're meant to complement each other. In the station's central chamber, both groups gathered to share their findings. The holographic displays showed a galaxy far larger and more dangerous than either civilization had realized. The Devourers weren't just a threat. They were the reason so many advanced civilizations had vanished without a trace. The Federation's technology, combined with human adaptability, Maya mused, that's what the ancients were trying to achieve. A civilization that could be both stable enough to endure and flexible enough to evolve. Lexus Tor's energy form flickered thoughtfully. Our probability engines never considered this possibility because it seemed too improbable. A perfect fusion of order and chaos. The revelation spread quickly through both civilizations, despite attempts by hardliners on both sides to suppress it. The war had been based on a fundamental misunderstanding. The Federation wasn't meant to guide humanity away from its nature. They were meant to learn from it. Aboard the Unconventional, now serving as a joint research vessel, Federation scientists worked alongside human engineers, each learning from the other. The humans' intuitive approach to problem-solving complemented the Federation's precise methodology in ways that neither side had thought possible. Watch this, Maya said to a group of Federation observers as she demonstrated a new hybrid technology. She had integrated Federation gravitational controls with human neural interfaces, creating a system that could respond to both mathematical precision and intuitive commands. Perfect order, but with room for improvisation. The implications went beyond military applications. Federation worlds began cautiously adopting human approaches to art, culture, and innovation. Human colonies benefited from Federation technology that brought stability to their often chaotic development. But the greatest test was yet to come. Long-range sensors detected massive disturbances in subspace, signs that the Devourers were stirring. Both civilizations now understood that their conflict had been preparing them for this moment, forcing them to evolve and adapt in ways neither would have achieved alone. Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the Unconventional, now retrofitted with both Federation and human technology. Beside her, Zeraval monitored readings that would have been incomprehensible months ago. The ship's crew was a mix of both species, each contributing their unique strengths to the mission. The ancients knew this day would come, Zyraval said softly. They left us the warnings, the clues, everything we needed to prepare. They just couldn't tell us directly. We had to figure it out for ourselves. Chen nodded, watching as the combined fleet of human and Federation vessels moved into formation around them. Each ship represented a perfect blend of both civilizations' technologies and philosophies. "Sometimes the best way to learn is to make your own mistakes," she replied. "And sometimes the best way to survive is to learn from each other." The Devourers were coming, but they would face something unprecedented. A civilization that combined the Federation's perfect order with humanity's endless capacity for adaptation. The ancient warnings had served their purpose, not by preventing conflict, but by ensuring that when the true threat arrived, the galaxy would be ready to face it united. A new dawn. The Devourers emerged from subspace like living tears in reality, their forms defying both Federation sensors and human comprehension. The combined fleet of humanity and the Federation faced them at the edge of the Orion Arm, in a region of space already scared by their previous battles with each other. Captain Chen watched the tactical display aboard the Unconventional, now the flagship of this unprecedented alliance. The vessel itself was a testament to what both civilizations could achieve together. Federation crystalline technology merged with human adaptive systems, precision, and intuition working in perfect harmony. "Multiple dimensional breaches detected," reported Lexistor, his energy form integrated directly with the ship's sensors. "The Devourers are using tactics we've never seen before." "That's because they've never faced an opponent like us before," Dr. Maya Patel responded from her station, where she coordinated the fleet's hybrid defense systems. "They're used to consuming civilizations that are either too rigid to adapt or too chaotic to coordinate." The first wave of the Devourer attack struck with reality-bending force. They targeted the Federation ships first, their energy weapons designed to disrupt the perfect crystalline structures that gave Federation technology its power. But the Federation vessels no longer relied solely on mathematical precision. Human tactical officers had introduced controlled chaos into their defense patterns, making them unpredictable. "Pattern Omega-3, Chen commanded, and the fleet moved in seemingly random directions that actually followed a complex algorithm developed by both species' best minds. Federation ships provided cover with their advanced shields, while human vessels executed maneuvers that should have been impossible, striking at the Devourers' dimensional weak points. Aboard the station where they had made their breakthrough discovery, Zeraval worked with a team of human and Federation scientists, decoding more of the ancient warnings. "The ancients didn't just leave us warnings," she announced over the fleet-wide channel. "They left us a weapon, but it required both our civilizations to use it." The Devourers pressed their attack, their forms shifting between dimensions, making them nearly impossible to target. But humanity's greatest strength had always been turning disadvantages into advantages. Dr. Patel's hybrid targeting systems didn't try to predict where the Devourers would be. They predicted where they couldn't be, creating killing zones in normal space. "They're adapting to our tactics," Lexistor warned as another Devourer attack penetrated their lines. "Good," Chen replied with a grim smile. "That means we can predict their adaptations. Execute Protocol Chaos Prime." The human fleet suddenly broke formation, each ship seeming to act independently and erratically. The Federation vessels maintained their precise positions, their energy weapons charging to maximum power. The Devourers, sensing apparent weakness in the human lines, surged forward, directly into the trap. "Now," Chen ordered. The Federation ships released their energy weapons not in precise beams, but in deliberately unstable bursts, guided by human gunners who relied on instinct as much as targeting computers. The human vessels unleashed their own attacks, not trying to hit the Devourers directly, but creating a web of gravitational distortions that forced them to materialize fully in normal space. "The weapon is ready," Zeraval's voice came through the command channel. "But there's a cost. It will burn out every piece of technology we use to trigger it. We'll be defenseless." Chen looked at her crew, human and Federation working side by side, each understanding what was at stake. "The ancients faced this same choice," she said. "They chose to sacrifice everything to give future civilizations a chance. We can do no less. All Federation vessels standing by. Vexra's voice came through, his once dismissive tone now filled with respect. We trust human intuition to guide our precision. The Devourers sensed the weapon's power signature and launched a desperate attack to stop it. The combined fleet took the hit, ships sacrificing themselves to buy time. The unconventional shuddered as its hybrid systems were pushed beyond their limits. Weapon activation in 3 minutes, Zyraval reported. The Devourers are concentrating their attack on the station. All ships, final defensive pattern, Chen commanded. The remaining fleet formed a sphere around the station. Federation and human vessels interlocked in a formation that would have been impossible months ago. As the Devourers struck, each ship compensated for the other's weaknesses. Federation shields reinforced by human power rerouting, human maneuvers guided by Federation calculations. In the station's core, Dr. Patel watched the final countdown. The Ancients didn't fail, she realized. This was their victory, not defeating the Devourers themselves, but ensuring that those who came after would be ready. The weapon activated, releasing a wave of energy that existed simultaneously in perfect order and total chaos. The Devourers, unable to adapt to both states at once, were torn apart by forces they couldn't consume or control. When the light faded, the combined fleet floated in silence, their systems burned out but their crews alive. The Devourers were gone, leaving behind only the lesson that had taken millennia to learn. True strength comes not from perfection or chaos alone, but from the wisdom to know when to use each. In the years that followed, the Federation and humanity rebuilt together, creating a civilization unlike any the galaxy had seen before. Federation worlds hummed with human innovation, while human colonies benefited from Federation stability. The ancient warnings remained, but their meaning had changed. No longer a warning of destruction, but a reminder of what could be achieved when different paths led to the same destination. The Ancients would be proud, Zyraval said to Chen as they stood in the rebuilt Grand Archive, watching Federation children learn human art, while human students studied Federation physics. They'd be surprised, Chen replied with a smile. We did something they never expected. We proved that the best way to honor the past is to build a future no one could have predicted. And in the depths of space, where the battle had been fought, a new warning was left for future civilizations. Here stood those who learned that strength lies not in perfection or chaos, but in the courage to embrace both. The story of humanity and the Federation became its own legend, a testament to the power of looking beyond ancient fears to find unexpected truths.